Hi, hello, and welcome to my porch. And you're looking at me very suspiciously.
Is it your porch?
Yeah, this is my porch.
There we go.
Yeah, it's our porch.
Give me the data.
Is
this your porch?
Jim's inside. He will not be joining us. This is, you have no idea what these questions are, do you? I just want to verify that. You're a little nervous?
I am, yes.
Jim texted me today and asked me if I could talk to him about what the nature of the questions were, and I said, what did I say?
Both personal and professional.
There we go. That's it.
And I said, so like a weird blind date.
And I said, I always liked blind dates. They were always my forte. Yes. So I want to ask you, the first thing is, what is your very first memory of APT?
So I came to Madison to do a show at Madison Rep. And some folks that I was doing the show with said, let's go see a show out at APT. I was, what?
Where were you coming from?
What? I'd lived in Minneapolis for years and years, and was just coming back from living in Miami for a while.
Okay.
And it was the end of September, or maybe it was October already.
Like already to the end of the season.
Outdoors, so bring a jacket. Bring it, what? And it was Henry IV Part 2. And it was we're driving out into the middle of nowhere. What's this, Mazamani? I said, where are we going? A carload of people. And then we pull into the lot and walk through the woods. Like, where are you guys taking me?
You get a little nervous.
This is terrifying. And the show was really, really good. And from an actor's perspective, I couldn't, who's the dude running around in a leather loincloth in October? He's got to be freezing. The guy playing the Douglas. And,
right.
So it was, and people were wrapped in sleeping bags and going to the porta potties, and it was really just stupefying.
Interesting.
On the one hand, and on the other hand, what? But it's a good show. What? How does this happen? What is this?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when was the first year you worked here?
98.
98. What was your first show? Your first?
Comedy of Errors. It was Bonin directed it the year before, and it was a remount.
Remount. That's back when we did the remounts.
That Smoots directed.
So John Langs, who you know and have worked with, is when he first worked here, his second time when I asked him to come back and work with us, he was really young back then, right? He came he was like a kid. And that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But he said to me, it's like, okay, I think so. It's kind of like working is kind of like walking through fire for me. And I remember having that, wow, what does that mean? And I wonder what you think he meant by that.
I imagine part of it is the investment in history of everybody who's already here.
The history of APT.
Yeah, and the company, and everybody speaks, because there's a common aesthetic sort of built on, the outside, can't fly helicopters in on the set, so language driven. So there's a common aesthetic and a common vocabulary, and the more someone works here, the shorter the hand gets.
Yeah.
And now there's a core company, so as a visiting director, to come into that has got to be really intimidating. And then just working outside in the sun and the bugs and the heat and humidity and rotating rep. Where are all my actors? What do you mean they're doing another play?
Right. What is the thing, if you were to talk about this with someone privately, don't worry about anything else except the honest answer to this. What are you most proud of?
You mean in terms of my connection here at APT?
Or your work? How about we do both? What's you most proud of in your connection here at APT?
That's really complicated because this would have been my 24th season, I think. So I came here, and a couple years later I was asked to be core company, and I met my future wife, and we got married, and we bought a home, and we had kids. So all of that is woven into 23 years of working really hard and getting to work with different people. I think maybe I'd put it like this. So when I was 20-something, I started doing theater, and it felt like getting religion a little bit, because I didn't fit anywhere. And I did a show my senior year of college, and I just clicked into, oh wow, my heart fits here, and my imagination, like everything just really. And a couple of years later, I was in Minneapolis and doing every show I could get my hands on. And I was walking through the woods one day, and you know those, it's fungi, like shell-shaped fungi, grows on a dead tree.
Yeah.
And on the underside, if you write on them, they dry, and it's sort of like writing in concrete.
Oh, wow.
A little bit. And I wrote, "I will be the best." And it was a 22-year-old statement of like, sort of based in competitive, about out there, the world. And I think maybe really the thing I'm most proud of is that with a lot of help from a lot of people, you instrumentally, that being turned inward and like being the best me.
Which is pretty remarkable.
Thanks. But like I didn't give up on the kind of actor I always wanted to be, but that vision got bigger with learning what I've learned out here. So I feel like a theater artist instead of the best. I feel like a theater artist. So
that's beautiful.
That feels really good. Yeah.
Yeah. I understand what you're talking about, though. I think there's so much in trying to be an actor that you have to believe, and you have to build your.
That's all I had was my confidence.
Exactly,
in my
your
20s,
confidence,
right?
and you just have to believe it. And there's no evidence yet other than your belief, and
Right.
so that kind of that necessitates a certain amount of. And it creates a certain amount of competition, obviously. And if you don't have a place to become a we, you're always an I, right?
Yeah.
You're always me.
Yeah.
And in a place where it's required that you are a we, or it won't thrive, it won't happen, it won't work. Because
that's your doing. I mean, that's a huge part of your doing. Not really.
He's trying. That feels really good when he says things like that.
But it's not.
But
it is. But the driving influence of, we're going to do this together, and we're going to be good people while we do it, and we're going to keep each other to account, and that sort of ethos, is part of what allows also, like, okay, well, I'm going to become a good artist while I'm becoming a good person. I'm going to become a good person while I'm becoming a good artist.
What are you most proud of the plays or the performances you've done? Like, what do you, when you sit and you say, that, I did good in that? I'm really proud my family saw that. This is the hardest question for every one of them.
Yeah.
They never want to answer this question.
Yeah, it's not even a matter of not wanting to. It just is. I learn something new every show, and every role requires something different of a part of me. You know, sometimes it's required that I mostly be a good ensemble member, really, really. And then other times, you know, I've learned, I'm pulling the cart here. And the first couple times of doing that, it's just that's all I can see. And then I feel great about getting to a point where, I'm pulling the carts, so I got to make sure everyone else feels welcome and has investment in this world. And then there are things like going way, way back to my first show and my experience, the thing that hooked me, I still, like a major part of my own process is when I know what breaks the heart of the person I'm being asked to play, then I feel like I have my hook. And so that's what I think of, you know, like Eurydice.
Look, you're going to cry.
I know. It's such a waterworks kind of a...
That's such a beautiful
But those are the things, you know, where I really feel like the heart's really present. And
yeah, that's where, I mean, I think a lot of people are proudest when they can not only be a craftsman and do a really good job of all the things they've learned and they use in every story, but it's when you line up who your heart and soul is with something, and that's why I think that was one that comes up for you. I have to say, that was one of my favorites that you did. I also think that your Exit the King was a masterpiece. Was a real masterpiece of work. It was so crafted and yet so full of so much, and so terrifying to do, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The bravery it took was pretty immense.
Yeah, it was...
Ken. Yeah. I was going to say, my favorite comedic thing you've ever done in it, I love your comedy, obviously, but is the, I can never remember his name, and whatever his name was in Widower's Houses. Ken directed you.
Cheese.
Lick Cheese. And I will never, in my head, ever forget the image of you sitting in that couch. And that black.
Yeah.
And it was just, it's just indelible memory.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, I mean, plumbing like history, personal history, a lot of my fondest memories, the pride, the sense of play and love and growth really comes with projects with Ken.
Yeah.
Ken Albers. Getting to do Lick Cheese with him. Go out on the limb, take a saw with you. That sort of bravery that he was always requiring. And he never said no. Like, every time I worked with him, I was like, I'm going to be so outrageous, he's going to say no. Okay, that's funny, but we can't do that. And he never said no.
He also had no taste.
Waiting for Godot. Oh, totally. Which is, again, you know, why we connected so well.
No, but Godot was a masterpiece, too. I thought that entire show, as far as 4 performances that made up a show, that kind of solidified something that was true for me.
Yeah.
He did that with Death of a Salesman, too. I had a real, like, the whole of it was just like a symphony orchestra.
Yeah, so Exit the King was supposed to be with Ken.
Yeah.
And again, was really, you know, I lived with that, what the room is going to be like.
And you talked to him a lot through that winter before he couldn't do it.
Yep. Yep. So I'm really glad I got to do it with Tim.
Yeah.
We had a great time. And, you know, there's a part of that was Ken.
Absolutely, because Tim was from Ken. I mean, Tim worked here because Ken...
And what the King was going through, you know, as Ken passed was, like, really, really... close to home.
I know. I always had this fantasy of seeing him do that, play that guy. He'd have disappeared.
Yeah.
He'd have just, because he'd been so perfect, it'd just be like, you're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, God rest his soul. Well, it's not resting. He's causing some trouble somewhere.
Rage against the dying.
Light. What are you least proud of or wish you could just, or do over? Do over! Give me one. It could be APT, it could be a performance.
Jeez, I have a really short memory for
bad things?
for shows that I've not been very good in. I remember all the relationships I've been terrible in. From, just chance encounters to, I've got a great memory for that. Like, wow, what a jerk I was.
Or would you like to just have a shot at it again?
I mean, all the stuff that I got to do really early days when I thought just my sense of confidence and courage was enough before I knew anything about technique. So, Romeo, what a thing gone by.
You answered this already because you were so forthcoming, but you talked about how it changed you. Is there any other ways besides making you feel a little bit more of a community, thinking outside of you in a way?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm hardwired a little to be sort of anti the man a little bit. And so early days when I met the first person teacher who was, there's such a thing as technique. I was like, oh, don't get in my stuff.
My process.
Don't
You're the first actor that I ever met that used the word process. Probably every conversation I ever had about acting. It was about your process, which was so sacred to you. And I don't mean that as a slam. I mean like that is true.
Yeah.
And that was you, because you were making that process up.
Well, because it was so important to me. I mean, it was really like an emotional lifeline. It's a terrible word for it, for how big a thing it was in my life. That when I started doing shows and I wasn't feeling it, when I wasn't honest, then I 100% wanted to drive my car into a bridge. It was so important and I was failing at this thing. And then, so that was the open door for slowly for people to be talking about technique and craft. And then coming here and having David Frank in his mysterious way talking about the language and that there's a musicality to the rhetoric that allows the ear to catch it. I just fought against that for so long. And then I remember the moment sitting in the audience and watching a show and hearing the thought and thinking, oh, so if that was, and if this was, then that might have been exponential. And so my ear getting trained by the constant, I'm not going to let this lie. One of my first seasons here, I was doing a show with David, and we were so very frustrated with each other a lot because we spoke in a very different way. And we eventually hammered out a pretty decent détente about that. But early days, I could tell he was frustrated, and I was frustrated. I was like, I just want to know if you believe me. And he, oh, Jim, I always believe you. I just can't always understand you. And that's for reals. And it takes such a long time for the ear and the brain to sync up and for that to become a reality. So that thing, that really embracing something that I fought against so hard, is a huge, huge shift and change for me.
What do you wish for APT's future?
So my only experience of theater festivals was before coming here was Stratford Festival. My dad and I went up there a couple of times, and I saw how the town had been built up. Mm-hmm. Who knows how it happened, chicken or the egg, but it was very synergistic.
And big, a lot of things.
And I remember thinking really early in the first few years here, like it has to keep moving, it has to keep changing, it has to keep growing, not just changing. Change for change's sake isn't worth the paper it's printed on, right? But to grow, or else you're stagnating. Mm-hmm. And I think APT's taken, obviously, in the 40-some years, it's taken these big shifts in dramaturgy, in inclusion and diversity, in the dramaturgy and in the acting company, and now being pushed into the artisans that support the shows and into the board and administration, right? All of that's really, really important that it continue to reflect who we are as a society. And I hope that APT is able to continue to honor the past and reach for the future, the unknown of that our definition of classics continues to get redefined without having to throw anything out necessarily.
We're all about words at APT. What's your favorite word?
Grace.
What's your least favorite word?
Indifference, I guess.
It's a lot different than grace.
Yeah.
And my last question to you is and you have sons, so this probably isn't as hard for you as many, but what, if you could say to yourself as a kid, knowing who you are now, like what would that piece of advice be?
Get over yourself.
Yeah, we could all use that, couldn't we?
Yeah.
It's so big. I love you, Jim Ridge.
I love you too.
I do. Thank you so much. Thank you.